What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Fantasy Puck video. Today's video is going to be my top 20 center rankings and putting them into tiers. I'm really excited for this video, so definitely stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, guys, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and for those looking for access to our Fantasy Puck Patreon League, head on over to the description below. If you have any questions or you just want to talk fantasy hockey, make sure you join our Discord. We have hundreds of fantasy hockey fanatics in there actively talking fantasy hockey each and every day. Without further ado, let's jump in and see who my top 20 favorite centermen are going into this season. What's up, everyone? I'm super excited for the center tiers list video. This is going to be a good one. I just want to make note that this is my own personal rankings based on our Fantasy Puck projections, which I will pull up here for you. These are based on the Fantasy Puck customizable scoring categories. So we are using Yahoo default, 6 points for a goal, 4 for an assist, 2 for a power play point, 0.9 for a shot, 0.9 for a hit, and 1 point for a block. I am using a Chrome extension. That's why I have dark mode on here. These are available over on our Patreon if you're curious about our projection list, but I'm using this to base some of my takes and just kind of give me an understanding of where I want players to be ranked. So getting us started, the easiest player on this list, Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers, just head and shoulders above everybody else in the league. We have him projected for 200 more points than the second best player, which is his teammate, Leon Draisaitl. But McDavid here just hits every single category. He's an elite goal scorer, elite playmaker, the best power play producer in the entire NHL, and now he's added really good shot volume last season. Honestly, the sky is the limit. We've never seen a player this dominant in fantasy in a really, really long time, but he is the S tier, the 1-1 player in every single league and every single draft. Number 2, his teammate, Leon Draisaitl. I think what separates Draisaitl, not only does he have really, really high point production, we have him projected for 119 points this season, but the separator is those power play points, especially for those in those rotisserie leagues that do have power play points. He is just so much better than McKinnon, Matthews, and Pastrnak for the power play points because he's projected to get 50 plus this season. So I love him as my number 2 player. He is very, very close, within 15 points in our projections on the number 3 player, Austin Matthews. I know a lot of people don't like this. I know a lot of people are saying I would rather take McKinnon and Pastrnak. That was my reviews on the first overall tiers video. I still like Matthews at number 3. I think his goal upside is the highest in the entire NHL this season. Even though Pastrnak scored 60 last year, I think with just them losing Bergeron, Krejci, Hall, and Foligno, it kind of makes them a little bit worse, where the Leafs really didn't get any worse. If anything, they got a little bit better because they are a little bit older in their core group. So I love Matthews here. We have him ranked 2 for goals this season at 52 projected goals to go with 300 plus shots. The power play points aren't really as good as the other 2 players, but I think just with the goal upside and how valuable goals are in Yahoo default points leagues, Matthews for me is my number 3 player here in the S tier. Now the next player, no surprise, Nathan MacKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche. The only reason why MacKinnon I don't have at 3 is because there are health concerns. He hasn't played a full season in a long time. And with MacKinnon, his ceiling is so high. We just haven't seen him play a full 82. He just broke the 100-point mark for the first time last season. And he actually did start to score a little bit more last year than we've seen in his career. His shot volume, extremely good. But I think for me, it's just the health concerns and the lack of goal scoring compared to Matthews is what separates the 2. And we're going to be discussing this the entire preseason leading up into the end of next year. So my next player, someone I was extremely high on, but I still think he's an A tier player. I think the players above him, McDavid, Leon, Matthews, and MacKinnon, are just, they're 100% S tier players. Jack Hughes is right on that line. We just haven't seen enough from him yet. So his second full year last season, he was extremely good. I was all over him in my drafts. He did deal with some injury. He was out for about 2 weeks last year. And the season before, he did miss about 40 games. But I really like Hughes this season. Again, just really high upside here. We have him projected for 106 points, 280 shots, 46 goals for Hughes. Sky is the limit for him as well. He can easily end the season as an S tier player. These American-born players are becoming very, very prevalent in the NHL now. He was taking a huge step last season. This Devils offense is extremely good. They added Tyler Toffoli. He's a 70-plus point player. And they re-signed Timo Meier, another 60-plus point player, power forward to play alongside Jack Hughes and just make this team that much better. My next player, another 8-year player, Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres. He is the focal point of that team's high-firing offense. They have extremely good upside on the entire roster. They're only going to get better because their entire team and their entire core group, like the Leafs, is getting older. I really like Tage this season. He was probably one of the best league-winning picks last year. I feel like no one really saw this coming with how good of a season he did have. But we have him projected for 91 points this season, 48 goals. He is definitely a player that can score 50-plus goals, and no one would really bat an eye. I really like Tage Thompson. The reason why he's not in the S tier just yet is we haven't seen enough similar to Hughes compared to the other 4 players above him. Moving on, we have Mr. and a lot of people didn't like this, Mika Zibanejad of the New York Rangers. I have him a little bit ahead of Brayden Point here and Elias Pettersson just because of how safe of a pick he is. He doesn't really get injured very much. He is very, very good in the power play. He is a high goal scoring forward. We have him projected here for 38 goals, 87 points, 240 shots. I feel like he's extremely consistent compared to some of the other players on this list. Brayden Point had 2 kind of down years and then broke out last season for 50-plus goals. And that was the same thing we saw with Pettersson, where Mika Zibanejad, you know you're getting 85-plus a season, and he's going to give you that shot volume. He's going to give you that power play upside. I'm a Mika fan. I have been since I started this channel. I have his jersey, which I should have up behind me right now. But I love Mika. I love the Rangers offense and the Rangers team. They're very, very good. And I think that's what separates them from the other 2 players. Next, on the A tier, Brayden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was one of our favorite sleepers last season. I know Chris had him in our 10 must-draft players video. Scored 50-plus goals. I had him in 4 of my 5 leagues last year. It sucks because I can't keep him because I took him in the 4th round, and I also was able to grab Pasternak in a few of my leagues, and same with Jack Hughes. But I really like Point here. I like this entire Tampa Bay team. It's crazy to see the difference when Nikita Kucherov's healthy with how much of a difference this team makes offensively. And with Point here, he's going to get line 1. He's going to get power play 1, play 19-plus minutes per night, give you a ton of upside. And we have him projected this season for 49 goals and 91 points. The only separator is that he has literally no hit volume at all, 51 hits, 31 blocks. With Mika and even Matthews, they both have decent block volume because they are sort of defensive centers. I know Mika plays penalty kill 1, and they have some hit volume. So that's the kind of the separator there. The next player, Elias Pettersson, the Vancouver Canucks. All of these are interchangeable. I really like Pettersson going into this season. He, again, like Tage Thompson, is the focal point of that team's offense. Without him going, the whole team isn't going. But it seems like Vancouver is just a wild card team every year. You have no idea what you're going to get out of them. You don't know if they're tanking. Like, they're a selling team. They wanted to trade JT Miller, and then they acquired Filip Hronek. It didn't really make much sense of what they're doing. I think at some point they need to decide whether they want to tear it all down and build off of their 3 core players, or if they want to just go for a run. But they traded Horvat too, so who knows? But trading Horvat just helps out Pettersson that much more because he's going to be playing even more minutes. If we see him getting 21 plus a season, the upside is huge there. But I like Pettersson. I just think he lacks some hit volume relative to the other players here, but his point upside, power play points, goals, everything is ticking all the boxes for me. Moving on to the B tier in the top 20 centers. Now, just because they're in a B tier doesn't mean they're bad. This is relative to the top 20 centers, which is a very, very packed position this season. We have Mr. JT Miller. Again, we're using the customizable scoring system here, and there are hits involved. And JT Miller, 170 hits we have him projected for, which is well above any of the centermen other than Vincent Trocheck, who I have in my rankings here. He's the only one within the top 15 with over 100 hits, and not to mention his shot volume. Very good, 200 shots we have him projected for. He's an extremely valuable player because he ticks all of the boxes offensively. I really like JT Miller, another player where you know what you're going to get out of him, and you're going to take him at pick 40, pick 35, and he's going to end up at finishing at rank 16 in some of your leagues. And that's what I see from JT Miller each and every season. Moving on, the GOAT, future Hall of Famer. I can't believe how good this guy is. I was just looking into his career, and he's about 400 points away from tying Yager for total points to become a second all-time, which is crazy to me. He's turning 36 this season. Love Sid the Kid. He's such a good player. I think he's trending downwards as his season progresses, which is, I mean, it makes sense. He's getting older, but still, he's extremely good player. His lack of goal scoring is kind of what drops him down a little bit more from the other players and why I'm taking him a little bit later. 33 goals we haven't projected for, 57 assists, 232 shots. Just a very good center on a very good team. He could have the upside definitely to fit in that A tier now that Erik Karlsson, a 100-point defenseman, is on that back end. I don't know what we're going to get out of the Penguins this year. We know Gensel is not healthy to start the season. He's a really big piece there. Him and Crosby, their chemistry is very good. We never know what we're going to get out of Evgeny Malkin, but I love Crosby. He's such a beast. I definitely want him on my fantasy teams. And again, very interchangeable at these positions. Next, Steven Stamkos of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I love Stammer. I like this Tampa Bay team a lot more than people are giving them credit for. I know Hedman kind of took a step back, and now Sergachev stepping in, so it's a little bit of a wild card on that power play. But that power play has been so good since 2020. The third most goals for with 173. Check it up if you don't believe me in the numbers here. I was just looking into it a little bit earlier for Mikhail Sergachev and why I like him this season. But for Stammer, power play beast with Kucherov healthy. Him, Point, and Kucherov are a very, very elite first line, very lethal first line. That division is extremely hard to play in, but there is a lot of high-firing offenses, and these games always seem to be shootouts. So I love Stammer this season. He's one of my favorite centers, and I think he's dropping a little bit more in drafts than people are giving him credit for. So the next B-tier player, Johnny T. I'm not a Leafs fan. I was called out from Shaky Pudding saying I was a Leafs fan. I am not a Leafs fan. I have him in my B tier. And you can tell in my top 20 overall players, I didn't even have Marner in there. So if I was a Leafs fan, I would definitely have him in there. But John Tavares is just a very, very safe center on a very good Toronto Maple Leafs team. He's going to be playing line 2, power play 1, 17 plus minutes per night. If Matthews ends up going down, Tavares, we saw last year when he stepped into that number 1 centerman role, he was an absolute stud. And one take I have, and I'm curious to what everyone else thinks about this, is Tavares' contract looks so bad because he's on line 2. Like if Matthews didn't pan out and he wasn't there, and Tavares was line 1 with Marner making $10.5 million, it wouldn't be that bad. But because Matthews panned out and ended up being this absolute stud of a centerman, now this Tavares contract looks way worse than it is, but you still have him as your 2C, similar to what we see in Pittsburgh. I'm going a little bit on a rant here, but I love John Tavares this season. We have him projected for 77 points, 250 shots, and 85 hits, 787 fantasy points amongst the top for all centermen. Now, I don't want to put him here because he's such a frustrating fantasy player, but I'm such a big Barkov fan, and I do have him in one of my keeper leagues, and I still don't know what I'm going to do with him this year. But I'm going to put Barkov in the B tier. He's one of the highest fantasy point per game players when he's healthy. And that's the thing with Barkov, is you don't know what the health is going to be. But this Florida Panthers team is one of the best offensive teams in all of hockey over the last couple seasons, and even more going into this year. So I really, really like Barkov. You just got to be careful because he does get injured quite a bit. We have him projected for 86 points this season. That is adjusted with his games played. 227 shots, top power play, top line, top end center. You're going to get everything from Barkov. It's just a matter of if you can deal with the health risk. Speaking of health risk, in our C tier, Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights, he showed in playoffs that he is back. He is still that elite centerman that went second overall, that was compared to Connor McDavid. I really, really like Jack Eichel. I just don't know how I feel about drafting him this season. He's a very good on-ice player, but in fantasy, for me, I just don't know how good this Vegas offense is going to be, and if this Vegas offense allows for a player to actually break that 80-90 point mark, which would actually separate him from some of these players and put him in that B and A tier. They roll their lines a lot. They roll their power play a lot. They don't really have a power play one with Theodore and Pietrangelo there. They both split 50-50, and that's the same thing with the forward groups. So although I like Eichel, I just don't think he has the upside to really be that 80 or that 90, 100-point player that we're seeing from some of these other players here. Moving on, Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes. It's kind of the same story with Aho as it is with Eichel, where just the way their team is structured and the way their team plays kind of limits them for their point production. And what I mean by that is with Carolina, they're a really good defensive team, but offensively, they're still very good. They win from their defense, right? Their defense is what generates their offense. But with Sebastian Aho, I just think that the upside is there. It's just not as high as the other players. He's more of a 75, 80 point guy with solid power play point production. We have him projected for 37 goals, which is extremely good, 78 points, so just around point per game. We do have some injury in there for him as well, 221 shots. He does have the upside to score 40 plus goals in any given season. It's just a matter of his line being the line that produces. They like to split up their offense, which is, seems to work for them, so don't fix what isn't broken. But with Aho, I think he is falling a little bit more in drafts than he should be, but the upside is still there. Next, Mr. Roope Day-to-Day Hintz. A couple of years ago, he got the nickname Day-to-Day Hintz because he was day-to-day for literally an entire season. But Hintz is very, very good. He was a huge sleeper going into last season at ADP 120. You were able to take him the 8th and 9th round, and he paid off tremendous value. This top line in Dallas is extremely good with Jason Robertson really taking that next level, really taking it to the next level last season with over 100 points, with over 300 shots. Roope Hintz here, we have him projected for 36 goals, 77 points. His lack of shot production is kind of what drops him down this list a little bit more. Only 180 shots, the lowest amongst the top 30 centermen I have here. So that's a little bit concerning. He does rely on some luck to score goals because of his low shot volume, but playing with Jason Robertson, playing with Pavelski, they're an extremely good line. Power play one, line one, very good minutes. I love Roope Hintz going into the season. Nico Hischier, the next C-tier centerman on my list. Another player that's just in this really high-firing offense. I know I keep saying that and we keep repeating it, but this offense in New Jersey is extremely good. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up as the #1 goal-scoring team, #1 chance-creating team. They're just that good. He is their former first overall pick. He's their defensive shutdown center, but still has huge point upside. So Hischier this season, he is my 17th ranked center. You definitely can't go wrong with him. He doesn't really get injured very much. He has solid minutes, and again, on this really good offense, playing line 2 because Hughes is the line 1 center and power play 1. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he just has so much risk, and it was such a weird outlier season for him. 104 points last season, so many on the power play. He crushed every single career high last year. That's just what you get from playing. That's the McDavid and Draisaitl effect, right? Just from playing on the power play with those guys, he had over 50 power play points. This season, we have him projected for 29 goals, 54 assists, 41 power play points, and 182 shots. He's a wild card. Edmonton just doesn't know if they want him to play second line with Draisaitl, first line with McDavid, or center the third line with Warren Foegele and Derek Ryan. So just a little bit of a wild card pick. I can see him going way overdrafted right now. He's currently Yahoo's 11th highest drafted center. I think that's just a little bit too high given the players and the caliber of players on this list. But he does have upside, again, for another 100-point season, just playing with that McDavid-Draisaitl duo. Lastly, I'm going to put him in the D tier. Poor Mr. Joel Eriksson-Ek. I think he's one of the most slept-on players, and me and one of the other guys from the team always talk about him. He just hits every single box good. Not elite, but good. 27 goals, 28 assists, 20 power play points, 230 shots, 140 hits, 53 blocks. If you're in those rotisserie leagues that have counting stats, this is definitely a guy you want to draft. But even in our fantasy, using our fantasy point projections, he's still one of the highest ranked centers just because he ticks every single box and he has an extremely high floor. So it's a little bit controversial having Joel Eriksson Ek here. People won't like this. But I do think if you're getting him as your center 2 or center 3 a little bit later in drafts, which is where he's falling to, it's very low risk. He's center 30 off the board right now. I have him as my center 20. Again, this is my own personal opinion. Let me know in the comment section below players I may have left out. We definitely do have some honorable mentions. Just it kind of depends on what the positions are, because we know the positions are all whack right now on Yahoo. But some honorable mentions: Joe Pavelski, Brad Marchand, he's classified as a center, I don't know why. Sam Reinhart, Bo Horvat, Elias Lindholm, all honorable mentions that definitely could have made this list. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this tiers list, what player you would switch around, what player may have missed the list that I didn't talk about. And I'm curious to hear what everyone has to say. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. This should be the final video for me for the overall rankings and tiers lists. We're now starting to get into the fun stuff, which will be coming out early September. For those looking for access to our Patreon League, click the link in the description below. Everything will be there. If you have any questions, just make sure you join our Discord. We have hundreds, close to 1,000 hockey fans in there actively talking about fantasy hockey each and every day. And that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.